Hi everyone, it is Savannah here with Coda Mountain Academy, and I'm super duper excited to say that we have an interview with Johnny Highland, who is a very, very accomplished guitar player, and I'm very excited to see what he has to say. He's going to be interviewed today by our very own Jimmy Crabtree. I'm just so excited to see the questions that he's come up with for Johnny and how things are going to go. I do want to tell you a little bit about Coda. Coda Mountain Academy is a really awesome opportunity for you to give back to the community. Not only does it give a safe place for our students to belong, but it also gives a place to our staff members to belong. Some of them are retired and are having the time of their lives serving with us. We also have a leadership development program, and those are our interns. So for example, Grace Bennett, who was a Coda kid from a very young age, was taught a lot and pursued music, and now she is one of our interns, not only in music but also in art and robotics. So it's a really awesome place to be. So thank you for your time, and now we are going to get on over to this interview. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I cannot wait to hear from Johnny. So take it away, Jimmy.
Hello everybody. I want to introduce you to the world-class Johnny Highland. He is, I proudly want to say that he's been a friend of mine for a while now, and I've known of Johnny for a while as far as what he's done in the guitar community and music in general. So Johnny, thank you so much for taking your time, your busy studio time, to join us today. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Jim. Thanks for having me, bud.
Yeah, we had talked recently about you coming up here and doing a clinic, but with what happened with the COVID-19, that was not in our good fortune right now. But maybe sometime in the near future we can do that.
Oh, I hope so too. I was looking forward to that, Jim.
Yeah, me too. Maybe sometime in the near future. So Johnny, let me kind of go into this a little bit as far as finding out what got you started on the guitar and into music, and where you're from. Just kind of let some of the folks who don't know about you, just kind of let them know who Johnny Highland is.
Well, man, I was born and raised in the good old state of Maine, and I was born with an eye disease called nystagmus, which rendered me legally blind. And of course, everybody in the family and all the folks around town were like, well, what's going to happen to this boy, you know? And so by age 2.5, my Aunt Brenda come bringing my dad his father's 1939 J35 Jumbo Gibson, old flat top guitar. And of course, my dad didn't play, so it sat in the corner forever. But I guess, you know, at 2.5, I grabbed onto that thing, and my dad would tune it to an open E chord. And honestly, man, I was like Linus with his security blanket, man. I just had to have that old guitar with me at all times. And by the age of 4, man, I was already playing shows, and by 5, I was winning talent contests and stuff like that. So I really give all the credit to the good Lord for the gift, man, because it happened like that. It truly did.
Yes.
And years I've actually played 22 instruments, and just been real blessed with an amazing gift, man. And of course, I also believe a purpose in life. You know, I think when people are born handicapped, you kind of go, well, what's life? What does life have in store for this person? You know, and of course, God opened that door for me right off the bat and showed me exactly what I was going to do with my life, man. So I'm very blessed by that.
Yes, that is great. So what do you think actually drew you to the guitar initially?
Just the fact that it was in the house, honestly. And once my mom and dad saw that I had such a love for that old guitar, I mean, then it's like, man, let's get him a banjo, see what he can do with that. You know, let's get him a bass guitar, let's get him this, that, and the other. And of course, my dad was a drummer in the 60s as well. And so, you know, we grew up in a trailer home, man. So obviously we didn't have much room for a drum set. But of course, even in my first band, man, the drummer let me borrow his kit for a while, and I jammed old Creedence records and stuff like that.
Right.
But it just did not take long for everybody to find out that I had pretty much a love for all instruments.
I remember reading, I think your first main guitar was a 39 Gibson J45 from your grandfather.
Well, the funny thing about that is, Jim, when I moved to Nashville, I told George Gruen what I had, and he's like, there were no J45s in 39.
Oh,
I kept saying, come on, man, I got one, man. He's like, you can't have, man. There were no J45s. So long story short, just within this past year, I had a dear friend of mine work on that guitar who actually works for Gruen's. And he said, no, man, he said, I'm going to swear, man, this is a J35 jumbo. And so it was not a J45 after all.
wow. Okay. I've got a former student. I teach not only for Coda, but I also teach at Showtime Music. And I have a former student, Jonathan Bryant, who now works for Gibson in Nashville.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
I haven't been to the factory down there, but I have been to Gruen's. You mentioned that. In
Oh,
fact,
man, it's pretty cool.
yeah, I remember years ago, probably 2003, I went down to Nashville with Matt Walker, and we recorded at Dick McVeigh's studio, Moonlight Studios.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we had an evening, we just went down for the weekend. We had an evening off that Friday evening, actually. And
Yep.
I believe it was that Friday or the Saturday evening, we went out and to Lower Broadway, and that's when I first seen you play. Actually got to hear you play, and I met you just for 30 seconds. But that's when I really, knew from the first few seconds of you playing, that you were such an awesome player. And a very nice guy when I met you. Of course, you didn't know me at all, but you were very nice to me for the few seconds I got to talk to you. You was busy, getting ready to get back up for your next set. But so what was it like? What was it like
in those days?
Yeah, what was it like in Don Kelly's band?
Absolutely incredible, man. And I gotta, kudos to Don Kelly, man. He has had such an amazing lineage of amazing guitar players, from Brent Mason to Troy Lancaster to Rod Riley, Red Vocart, Kenny Vaughn. Of course, after Red, I took over in Don's band for about 5.5 years. And then, of course, I passed it on to Guthrie Trapp, and then, J.D. Simo, Daniel Donato. I mean, the list goes on and on. So,
sorry, but I always heard it kind of described as like a boot camp for incoming guitar players.
oh, brother, let me tell you, it's barroom boot camp, buddy, and honky tonk heaven. I'll tell you, it's. But
Yeah.
one thing I like on Kelly, man, is he certainly had a way to teach guitar players tone. I mean, he used to, man, literally, he would say, "Here, boy, here's your tips. Go buy yourself a tone."
Yeah. The band that I'm in now, Cheap River, we actually got to go to Nashville. Buddy, Ray, Mike, and Frankie and I. Actually, Frankie didn't get to go with us on that trip, but we went to Nashville a few years ago and recorded down at the Tracking Room, and that was a great experience. I love going to Nashville. Yeah, it's of course like you said, you've lived down there, I believe, 22 years. Have you noticed from the time you first got there to when the past several years, have you seen a big change in Nashville?
I have, Jim, and that's really the main reason that my wife and I moved up here to Chatham, Virginia, man. It's I guess change is inevitable, in a lot of cases, but to be honest with you, man, I grew up loving good old country music, and the traditional side of country music is long gone now.
Yeah.
The city, frankly, grew too big, quite a bit unsafe, and on top of that, the music had changed. So I told my wife, I said, "Babe, if I can't take the trash out at night, then it just doesn't feel like home anymore." And so we also realized how many years we had sacrificed time away from family for us to do what we've done with our lives. But I think there's a time where you say, "Man, we need the family time now. Old Johnny boy needs to go fishing, man," and just really jump out of the rabbit hole that is Nashville. Because I think once you jump in it, brother, it's really hard to pull yourself out.
Yeah, I can understand that. So these days, I heard through the grapevine that you may be working on a new album. Are you doing that?
I am. I'm working on it as we speak. In fact, I took a break to come up here and speak with you, man. So I'm frantically in the studio every day working on my new album. It's actually going to be called the Chatham Sessions.
Okay.
And really excited about it. And in fact, I'm playing every instrument on the record myself.
Awesome. I have your first album, and I love this album. I know you recorded it at Steve Vai's Favored Nation studio.
I did.
Yes, and love that album. I've got Standing Strong. I've got All Fired Up that you did with Mike Barney, Shrapnel. Love all of that stuff. And also on Standing Strong, got a lot more vocals. And you're a great vocalist besides awesome guitar player. So I really
Jim,
enjoyed all the vocals.
later for those kind words, brother.
Yeah, you have to say it when it's deserved. So
Thank you.
very, very deserving of that. Speaking of Gibson, a friend of mine, Noah Brown, just got a new Gibson guitar. It's a 2019. I think he said it was a Bluesberry Burst. And he was kind of favoring after one of your songs, Bluesberry Jam.
Yeah,
Yeah, so he kind of described how he was kind of motivated to get that guitar because of that song of yours.
Oh, that's, man. You tell him I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So many great people that I've met through music, just the journey of playing guitar and playing music in general. Lots of friends down the road. You're the same way. I've got so many great memories, and the roads it's taken me down. You know, guys like Keith Fain, Noel that I mentioned, the guys that I'm working with now, other bands I've been in, Borderline with Eugene, Terry Gunther's band, so many. You know, I know that it's been the same for you as well because you've played so many different places.
The big lessons in my life, Jim, is that really became phone buddies with a lot of my heroes. I really had the best of both worlds, and here again, I give all the credit to the good Lord above, man, because when I moved to Nashville, I had no idea what my intention was when I moved there. I just knew I wanted to play, be involved in music, but I really didn't know what facets were out there for guitar.
Right.
And so, to be honest with you, man, I really do give the good Lord credit, and of course, some good managers along the way. But over the years, man, I recorded my first album at the Mothership, Steve Vai's studio.
Yeah.
And I was out doing dates with George Clinton and P-Funk, and then coming home and playing on a Toby Keith record, and then I'd go back out and, play a gig with Sammy Hagar and Ted Nugent, and then come back home and play on a, Randy Travis album. And so it was kind of like I was able to jump back and forth between many different genres of music while my career was actually just getting off the ground and getting going. And so I've been so thankful about that. But then on the other hand, Les Paul would call me on the phone and, hey kid, tell me a joke. I'm working on guitars for the joke. Or Noki Edwards from the Ventures would call me, and he became such a dear friend. And even Ronnie Montrose would call me, man. We were planning a fishing trip past, and but I've gotten to know a lot of my heroes and actually have them call the house and want to talk, and
That's awesome.
so it's been a real honor throughout my years of being in the music business, man, to garner friends like that.
Yeah, I know when I'm out playing, was until this pandemic started, but hopefully sometime in the near future we can get back to that. But I know there's been times, you try to find motivation to do what you're doing. Sometimes, I mean, I love playing, but just to spend all the time traveling and things, and I always look back as to where I got started and who influenced me, just listening to the great albums and so many great players, Vinnie Moore and George Lynch, Steve Morrison, all those guys you mentioned as well,
Oh yeah. And
Yes.
then of course, Gatton, Albert Lee, Brent Mason.
Exactly. And I know there's so many, including myself, so many other players that look at guys like you and, Albert Lee. Yeah. But, and that's the thing about music, it keeps going, but yet it comes back around as a 360 and continues down a new road as well.
Well, that's why people are like, man, why did you leave Nashville? Dude, country music's going to come back around.
Yeah.
However, the change took so long to happen. But yet, it kind of hit a wall all at the same time. It was like a slow transition when you live in town, but yet the music itself was just wham, all of a sudden we're seeing folks swinging on Tarzan ropes on stage and bashing guitars and all the late night show and the fog and all this stuff in a country show.
Yeah, well, I missed all that when I was down there.
Yeah, it's just funny that our even I don't really believe that country music is going to come back to the days of Merle Haggard and George Jones and even the Grand Ole Opry's changed a bit. But that doesn't mean we still don't have guys like Marty Stewart and Ricky Skaggs and Steve Wariner and guys like that. So I don't believe true country music will ever die in any way. But yet we are in a change
Yeah.
within the industry, especially in country music. So that's why I left, man. And it's hard because I know eventually, man, well, will it come back around and will I want to move back there? Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. As far as guitar players and learning music in general, but specifically guitar players, as you kind of get into it by hearing great songs on the radio or sing maybe a show, a concert, and you get inspired. And then eventually you find that you start listening and appreciating other styles of music. I know with you, very versatile player, because I've heard you play a lot of different styles. Do you have one style that you really favor the most, or is it just kind of all equal?
Man, I think it's really just based on the song. I think when a song hits your mind, and of course, when you're an artist like myself and you're writing your own music, I've had songs in my arsenal of writing where I think, man, in my head, this is going to be a great chicken picking tune, and then it turns out to be a rock tune in the end. You just never know.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
The influence is true, and of course, a song can take on a life of its own.
Right. Right. Exactly. Now, as far as equipment, so are you endorsed by a guitar company right now?
Yes, I'm actually. I have a brand new signature model with Kiesel guitars out of Escondido, California.
Okay. I have heard of Kiesel. Actually, I seen an ad in Vintage Guitar Magazine. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, it shows a picture of you with your signature guitar. And I've not got to play one yet, but I actually have heard some great things about it, and I've heard you play on some videos. Great sounding guitar. It seems to be very versatile.
Well, I'm to a T-style guitar again. Obviously a Telly style guitar, and to be honest with you, Jim, that's been like home for me for years.
Yeah.
And really, Kiesel Guitars created a Johnny Highland model that is uber versatile, really, really fun to play, and the quality and craftsmanship is just second to none, man. I think they're absolutely the best company in the world making guitars here in the good old USA, man. I really don't think it gets any better than that. And of course, they're also for the best price that you can get nowadays. So
yeah.
I'm just so proud of the family for sure.
Right. Now, so in the signature Johnny Highland model, is there a Telly style pickup in the bridge?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Billy Magella back in 2008 or 9 designed my Johnny Highland 6-shooter singles with Electric City pickups. And I have used and sold those pickups for so many years. But recently, Billy had some medical stuff go on and the company ended. So he actually handed the whole pickup design over to Kiesel when they were actually making my model. And so Kiesel Guitars is making my pickups in-house. And I have to say, Jim, they are spot on to what Billy had designed. So I'm so proud of that fact.
Awesome, awesome. Does it have a nice radius on the neck?
Yes, man. I mean, Kiesel Guitars is really they've really changed me as far as radius goes, man. My Johnny model comes in a 10-inch radius, which old Fenders were like in the 7.5 to 9.5. I like the 10 because it's a little tiny bit flatter. But then, of course, they also offer 12-inch radius, 14, 16, and I think even 20.
Wow, that's pretty flat.
Model with a 14, buddy, and I got to tell you, that thing plays real nice.
Awesome, awesome. Now, what about pedals?
Oh my goodness, buddy, we could go through 7 or 8 interviews just on pedals. Recently, though, man, my pedal board has shrunken down in size a bit. I'm using, of course, Go-Go tuners. I love their Horizon tuner; it's amazing. Then I'm using a lot of Keeley pedals. I'm actually using a Keeley Compressor Plus.
Okay.
I'm using a Greer Amps Soma preamp pedal.
Okay.
And then Johnny Highland Sweet Spot Super Drive that came out with Keeley Electronics a while back.
Ooh, nice. Need to check that out.
An old mid-90s TS9 tube screamer that my brother Kenny Thurman got for me for my birthday. I'm using that, and I'm also running my signature Johnny Highland Grumble box made by Metal Pedals. So
Okay.
all three dirt pedals. And then, of course, I'm an ISP decimator guy. I like that noise reduction. I'm running a TC Electronic Flashback X4-2, which is 3 independent delays at your feet at once with tap tempo and a looper in it.
Nice.
I'm running a reverb pedal made by J-Rocket called the Boeing.
Uh-huh.
And I also have a reverb pedal from Keeley called the Omni, which is fantastic. Powering everything with Voodoo Lab. Of course, I've been a Voodoo Lab guy for 20 years or better. And I've actually just started working with a company called Earthboards, which I'm really excited about. I'm actually waiting on a custom one they built me here that should be coming very soon. But, you know, for the last 20 years, I've been a pedal train guy. But, man, this new Earthboards thing, Jim, I gotta get you hip to them, bud. They're really making some great stuff. And you can now magnetize your pedals on your board.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
pretty cool guy, man.
So on the boards,
That's what I'll say.
yeah. So you haven't actually got it in hand yet, but I'm assuming that, you know, it's going to be real estate friendly.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely real estate friendly. Now, the other funny thing I must admit, I tell you that I love blind guy friendly stuff.
Yeah.
I'm down, Jim. I'm now endorsing Tsunami cables, and look at the color of these cables, man.
Ooh, you couldn't lose those.
Blind guy, Tsunami cables, man. I mean, they are the best.
Nice.
He's on stage. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Hey, so amps, a favorite amp you're using right now, or you're endorsed by an amp company, or where you at on amps?
Trary from DestroyAllGuitars.com, he hit me to Reeves amps way back. So I've been using a Reeves Space Cowboy for a British kind of tone. But then here in the last 2 years, he hipped me to Fat Jimmy amps.
Okay.
So now I'm using a Fat Jimmy Jefferson 100 live, and in the studio I'm using the Fat Jimmy Avionic, which is a 45 watt 112 cabinet.
Yeah.
The cool thing about the Fat Jimmy Avionic though, Jim, is you can take that amp on the plane with you. You can take it in an airport. It's 18 pounds.
Oh, wow. So it's carry on.
Yeah, you could actually take that as a carry-on, put it up overhead in the plane, not have anything happen to it, and then just run if you're doing fly dates, you just run a cab, a backline source, and then just set your head on top, plug it in, and go for it, man. So
Makes it very convenient then.
Yes.
So you mentioned your new album coming out. That sounds awesome. I've got 3 of your albums.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely, I love them all. I don't even know if I have a favorite. With albums and songs, you always find, hey, there's this riff right here, there's this section here, and then you'll listen to it a little bit later, maybe a week or so later, you'll hear some other song. Wow, I never noticed that riff before. It's like how it is when you're listening to the albums, and it's like reading a good book or watching a good movie. There's always scenes that you maybe missed the first time you watched the movie, and so it's kind of like that. And so always very special. Just kind of absorbing or maybe sometimes analyzing the music, not getting too far into it, but you know what I'm saying.
You remember when you recorded in Nashville, of course, right?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Well, when you create a record or any kind of music, it lives beyond you, right?
Yes.
But the funny thing is I really appreciate your kind words and loving my albums, but the funny thing is when I listen to them myself, I know where every snafu is in that record, where every mistake was, or where I had to punch, or I remember all that stuff, man. So sometimes it's very hard for me to listen to my own music, but yet just recently I did a gospel album, as we talked about earlier, and it's called Picking for the Lord, man. And I got to say, I think that's the record that I poured my full heart into, because when you do something for the good Lord, you want it to be right.
Yes.
And of course, to give thanks back to him for the gift of music, man. So I took all my favorite gospel albums and actually did Picking for the Lord, but I think there's going to have to be a part 2 coming down the line. The first half was with, John Jorgensen and Greg Martin from the Headhunters. I had Mr. Tom Bresh on there. I had Phil Kagi on there. Brent Mason was on there.
Awesome.
Jack there were so many people. And of course, if I'm leaving anyone out, I apologize. But oh, and Mr. Pig Robbins, Argus Pig Robbins played on that album with
Oh,
me
wow.
too.
Wow.
Funny thing is, man, I want to do a part 2 now where I bring in, like Vi, Satriani, and Eric Johnson, and
Yeah.
buds from the rock side, and of course, I still would love to get in the studio with James Burton and Dwayne Eddy.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
Who-
So,
my-
yeah, now as far as, support, for me, my better half, Heather, has always supported me immensely. I have 2 boys, Alex and Michael, and actually Michael's a drummer. Alex had started on one instrument and went to another, and he's working actually in Virginia right now. But yeah, it's always nice to be surrounded by people and have that kind of positive energy.
Well, Jim, I must say, bud, I really believe the biggest blessing in my entire life was being introduced to my sweet darling Kimmy girl. We just celebrated 15 years, April the 2nd.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
I met that girl. She changed my life big time.
Yeah.
And not because of anything bad, of course, but she just brought such a level of joy to me. And of course, as you mentioned, the support as well. It's really hard to put into words what that means.
Exactly.
And of course, she understands me musically, but she also understands me as her husband. And I'm so blessed to have her in my life, man. So,
Yes.
So I'm just shouting out to my sweet baby because I think it's important. And I'm glad you mentioned Heather as well. It's really important that we have that.
Exactly. As far as, and I have 4 sisters actually. So, yeah. Yeah. But, as far as teaching, I know that you teach a lot as well. You teach a lot online. As far as teaching, I love my experience teaching with the kids or adults. Teaching with Coda, all the great people with Coda. Savannah, as you got to meet earlier. Anthony, Esther, Robert, Mudcat, and Debbie, and the whole crew. Yeah, the Coda kitchen that they have, helping all the kids in the area. But as far as teaching, yes, as far as teaching, one of the secrets is getting your point across. And then you try to instill some motivation to practice, as you know. Have you ever experienced, in your career of playing, finding, having to look back on why you started in the guitar and maybe finding new inspiration or just, you could be traveling somewhere and see something that gives you inspiration as far as, wanting to continue or maybe you're writing?
Well, Jim, I think there's a lot of factors involved in inspiration. Like, I can be honest with you, dude, I get inspiration just from putting on a fresh set of elixirs on my guitar,
I hear you. Oh, yeah.
Like, that fresh sound from a good set of elixir strings is hard to beat, man. And so that alone is inspiration. However, I will state that this move to Chatham has really been a massive, massive inspiration to me. I mean, it's opened up so many different creative juices that I've never known. But I will say, Jim, from jumping under the rabbit hole, which is Nashville, and being a picker down there, as you can imagine what that's like, now that I'm out of that, I have gone back to realizing that even though my life is guitar, of course, as far as what I do for a living, but since moving to Chatham, it's also made me realize that we're still having fun doing what we love to do. We're getting, we're not digging ditches every day. We're playing a musical instrument.
Right.
And our level best to get good at it so that we can make people happy by entertaining folks. And
exactly.
That realism hits.
Right.
It humbles you, man. It makes you realize it doesn't matter how many times I've headlined the Grand Ole Opry or how many records I've had out or how many famous people I know and be able to call them friends. I'm still just the old hairy-legged country boy from Maine that has had life. So
yeah. Well,
now with Kimmy and my 2 little dogs, and just people are like, "Man, you're not on the road much anymore." But no, it's because I'm so creative and enjoying my new lifestyle here. It's simpler, in this. And so I'm just grateful for that, man. So the inspiration of the move has really just overdone new creative juices in my life, man. So I'm blessed by that.
That is awesome. So I've got one more question for you, and I guess we'll wrap it up because I know you have to get back to your busy studio schedule. So what's one thing do you think music and playing guitar in general? What's one thing do you think music has taught you, or what has it taught you about life? Let's put it that way.
Well, I think really what it has taught me, Jim, honestly, and this has been all through my life. The good Lord gave me this gift in the first place. And of course, I'll always give him credit for that first and foremost. But to be frankly honest with you, I feel like I learned how to pray when I play.
Yeah.
People say, man, you play so great, man. How do you do it? I'm like, it's not about playing great. To me, it's Les Paul asked me at the Iridium one time. He said, boy, what do you think about when you play guitar? I'm like, praying, because I'm literally, of course you do your normal prayer, as a Christian, but I feel like for me, I'm talking to God more when I play guitar.
Yeah.
And so in that respect, it keeps you humble. It keeps you, I think it's very hard to separate the fact that guitar can be a lifestyle and it can be a career, or it can be a very personal, wonderful emotional outlet for you in your life.
I tell you, exactly, you're right. I tell you, there's been some places I've played or some situations that I've prayed and I said, please, Lord, get me out of this or get me through this.
Right.
But always in a good, fun way, of course.
I think what I really want everyone in the YouTube world to know, or whoever's watching this through Coda or anything, is even the most famous person that you love in your life, when you meet them and get to know them via the telephone or a Skype call or whatever, they are the same kind of people we are, man. They're down to earth. They are just so happy and blessed to do what they do, and they've been fortunate in doing so. And I think that's just humbling, man. I think it's a beautiful thing when you find out the stars that you've looked up to all your lives are just normal people like we are. And
yes, exactly.
I think that's been one of the biggest joys I've gotten to see throughout this whole music career is just how cool that, how true that really is.
Yeah, and I think, when you anticipate meeting someone for the first time, a hero of yours, and you're thinking, well, how will he or she be? And you're hoping that they will be just a regular person. That's what you hope.
Well, I've met some of my, favorite stars, and they're just, I don't know what it is, but maybe they just had a bad day or something, And so you have to realize, even when you meet a star, if they're even not treating you that well, when they might have a headache, they might not be feeling well, they might, you just never know. But I can say this, most artists that I have met in this lifetime, but are all real sweet people. And like I said, just real thankful for what they do and the fact they've been fortunate in doing it. I think it's just fantastic.
Exactly. I remember you saying one time, it's never too hard to be nice.
Oh my goodness, no, brother. It's not. And it's not too good to thank the good Lord for the gifts, man, because without this gift in my life, I don't know what I would be doing, Jim.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Right. Well, thank God that you are playing guitar because I love your music, and I know a lot of other people do too.
Well, I sure appreciate that, buddy, because it's friends like you and fans out there and great folks that keep me doing what I do, man. I mean, there's times you can certainly go, I'm out of tunes. I have nothing. I don't know what else to write. I've done so many albums, I don't know what to say anymore. But one way or the other, man, there's always a song that pops out of somewhere, and you just have to write it and record it.
Yeah, that is awesome. So, Johnny, I thank you again so much for your time, and for all the listeners out there, please be safe with this COVID-19.
Oh, you too, buddy. And, God bless everybody watching. If you're, obviously we're all quarantined right now, Jim, but hey, I look at three wonderful things in this, because we always have to find the positive, right?
Exactly.
So you got time to pray, you got time to read the word, and you got time to play guitar. So there you go.
That's awesome. All right, Johnny, appreciate you, brother, and you have a great evening.
You too, Jim. God bless you, buddy, and thanks to the folks at Coda. I can't wait to meet you guys when I get up there to West Virginia. So
sounds great. Okay. All right, bye.
All right, take care.